The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and everyone else listening from all over the world. I'm sure we have world listeners out there. Welcome to Your Money. We are Becca Wilton and Sherri Rosenberg. Sherri Goss with Rosenberg Financial Group. The main thing we do as financial advisors is we provide retirement planning and advice. We manage our clients' investment accounts. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and you can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com, where we have a number of special reports, and you can also listen to the recordings of our past radio shows. So if you missed it, go online and you can find those there. And the number to call in today again is 478-742-0940. We're here to take your calls about all things financial. And if you don't want to call in, email us. We have support, SUPPORT, at rfmoney.com. And Sherri or I or someone will get back to you next week about those questions.
Excellent. So we're sponsoring the Run to End Alzheimer's, which happens on April 2nd, 2022. It's put on by this guy, John Rowlands, who is just amazing. And we used to live in the Landings, which is where this happens. It's in Warner Robins. So John lives in the Landings, and he created this program 11 years ago. And last year he helped raise $40,000, I believe, for Alzheimer's. And so he sent me the flyer. But along with the flyer, what's even better are free virtual educational programs for people who have family members with dementia. And I met with a client yesterday whose mother has dementia, and we talked about how hard it is when you're communicating with this person, or they're asking you the same question every 10 minutes, and just, it's exhausting. And so you have to have strategies for dealing with this. So there are lots of free educational programs that are virtual. You just go to the internet and you type it in, and you can watch this stuff and hear the message that they have to say. And so the same thing, support at rfmoney.com if you're interested in that, and I will email it to you. But it's a great thing for the neighborhood, great thing for Middle Georgia.
Have you run that race before?
I don't run.
There's all sorts of hills because it's by the golf course, especially coming out of that neighborhood at the end of the race. So it is a beautiful neighborhood, but it's a tough race.
Yeah, I tried doing it one time, and I ended up walking probably half of it. I've never been a runner. I had asthma as a kid, so I couldn't run it hardly as a kid. I've never had the lung capacity to do it, but I've tried. I got up to a mile one time, and that's about as far as I got. Market update. So the markets are all jittery this week because all of a sudden, instead of a 0.25% interest rate hike in March, they've changed their minds and it's going to be 0.5% because of the inflation rate. So inflation is at 7.5%. Consumer prices are up. The market is all over the place. Crude, last night when I was writing this stuff up, was $91 a barrel. This morning, because of Russia and Ukraine, it's $95. The volatility is insane. If you want to know more about the Russia-Ukraine thing and what's going on, there's a really good article this morning on the Wall Street Journal that walks you through the history of Russia and Ukraine, the last skirmish that they had, where they're positioning themselves, where we're positioning ourselves, and it's very well written. It's very factual. It's not opinion. And so Wall Street Journal is pretty much, I can pretty much trust them with about anything I read there. U.S. jobless claims fell again this week. And then the IRS, this is a shocker, the IRS walks back their facial recognition idea. The only thing I've seen walk back faster than this is when Obama came out on a Monday and said he was going to start taxing Roth IRA distributions because only rich people have Roth IRAs. And he got pounded into the dirt. And the next day he said, no, I'm not going to do that. But anyways, these politicians and their ideas, whoever, whatever. But that's enough for now.
Well, hey, Sunday is Super Bowl, and found this interesting article about bets. Mm-hmm. So, Sherri and I are not gambling people, but we are so amazed at people, the money that's spent on it. This is a record number of Americans will wager an amount about $7.6 billion on this year's Super Bowl. The American Gaming Association released a report on the anticipated betting for the upcoming championship. They found that 31.4 million Americans plan to place a wager on the game.
And those are just the legal ones that you can see.
Yes, a 35% increase from last year. So the ads now are $7 million for 30 seconds.
Is that crazy?
Biggest price jump ever. So it says, the results are clear. Americans have never been more interested in legal sports wagering. You just wonder what is causing all of that. But
people like it. And it's fun, and it's conversational, and you're pitting yourself against your friends, and you're all betting on stuff together, and it's like a game.
I was reading this. It said that going into the season, only 1% of people bet on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, and only 2% on the Rams. So now they're about 55% is favoring the Rams right now. But it's just really interesting article. Casual betting will edge out traditional betting at 18.5 million versus 18.2, but traditional betting will surge around 78% compared to last year.
So this morning I looked up the latest on Georgia and sports betting, and so this just came out this week. In early January, Georgia House Speaker Dave Ralston met with reporters and discussed the potential for gambling legislation in his state. Ralston's words sparked some hope amongst sports betting supporters that online sports wagering would soon be coming to Georgia. There's an appetite I haven't seen before to do something. Teams like the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons, the Braves, they all want to see legal sports wagering because it's going to increase how many people watch. Because you have to be watching to see whether you won the bet.
And if you put money down on it, you must care. You're going to be watching.
FanDuel, which is huge, announced last year it would open a new office hub in Atlanta, promising more than 900 new jobs over a 5-year span. And this is just sports betting. That's all they do. The company aimed to be operational in its new space by June the 1st of this year. Brian Kemp, our governor, who has opposed sports gambling in the past, was supportive of the company coming to Georgia, of course, because it creates jobs. The expectation, given previous bills, is that the Georgia lottery would be the state's regulator if sports betting is legalized, and a significant chunk of the tax revenue would then go to Hope scholarships, just like we do now.
Well, that would be good, yeah.
Let me see. There's also the fear of people being addicted to it and going broke, which happens every time you have gambling anywhere. And then their next session concludes April 4th, leaving 2 months for the sports betting discussion to ramp back up. So we'll keep an eye on that and let you know how that goes. But I'm certain it's going to be on the ballot this year. And then the next news is this thing about Macon. And when I saw this headline, I thought it was crazy. It was on Channel 13. So when Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller announced a new amphitheater and development plan for the Macon Mall, who could have envisioned the possibility of an aerial transportation network to the property? The company you can look up online to see what this is JPods, J-P-O-D-S. They hope to build a rapid transit network of pods or gondolas to connect downtown to the Macon Mall, similar to amusement park rides like the AgriLift at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. So I had to go to the website and look at this morning, and it's really simplistic. You basically have this rail that is high enough that a truck could pass underneath it, and it's very simple and inexpensive to construct. And these pods, I don't know, it was fascinating to me. So he says there are going to be solar panels on top of the rail network to power the transportation system. The MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, states Georgia Mobility's network will be 100% privately funded and owned, solar-powered, high-capacity, and operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What could possibly go wrong with this?
That just sounds crazy. Why are people needing to get from downtown to the mall 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Well, the mall, so I got here a little bit early, and so I drove around downtown just to check on stuff. And in case people don't know, the Marriott on 1st Street is open, and it's called the 45 after the record history of Macon, but it opened last month. And so it is right across from the concert place, a huge, it's not the amphitheater, I can't think of the name of it, but it's right by City Hall. I mean, City Hall, our music venue, and then the Marriott, and then you have all of the stuff opening up downtown. Everything's being reconstructed. I mean, it's amazing the construction going on down here. But he's planning on the whole pickleball court and this being a venue where if you live downtown, you could take this rail thing, do the mall, and go to a concert and then get a ride back.
Well, I was thinking maybe all these people that are staying at the Marriott downtown want to go play pickleball, so they'll need transportation to the pickleball courts.
So let me see here. The mayor said he has recently discussed development options with the new owner of shopping centers along Presidential Parkway, which could use some serious cleaning up. I mean, if somebody really wanted to fix all that area, the property values would go through the roof. Let me see here. The mayor's plans are progressing for redevelopment at the mall and construction of the amphitheater. The county delegation recently traveled to Huntsville, Alabama to tour that community's new amphitheater on the site of the old shopping mall. After studying that new facility, Miller expects to break ground this month on the concert and entertainment venue. I can't believe this guy. The Urban Development Authority, or UDA, will own Macon-Bibb County's portion of the mall that's being donated. Blah, blah, blah. Is there anything? Oh, that's where the Belk's department store is, where the indoor pickleball facility is going to go. And they've already hired a design specialist to figure that out. I mean, they're moving fast on this thing.
Yeah, they said there will be regional tournaments, and I think it's like almost year-round, the pickleball. So I didn't know it was that big of a deal, but it said the tournaments can host like 800 to 1,000 people. So you think about all of the restaurants around that area and lodging. It could bring a lot of business.
Miller's plans also are progressing for certain county offices to move from rented spaces around town to the mall, and then the UDA would collect the rent, and then they would use that to repay the $40 million in bonds expected for the whole redevelopment. So everybody's working together on this thing, and it's happening fast. So that's going to be fascinating. And the other thing that's interesting, I drove by the other building that's opposite of the city hall. And I can't think of the name. It was a synagogue, I believe, and it's been sitting there vacant for years, and somebody bought it for $12 million, and they're talking about turning it into a sports betting venue. Wow. And it's massive. It is a massive building where you would have flat screens all over the walls, and you could sit and watch people compete for money, either in sports betting or video gaming. And so that's the last I heard of that, but that's right there next to the auditorium, next to the Marriott. So I would think there'd be some hub around there that's where you would probably get on to get off or whatever to this thing.
I wonder if they'll have a couple different locations, like if they'll have 2 or 3 different stops instead of just up front. And
they said that it's super easy and cheap to have multiple locations. So they want to. I didn't read that part of it, but they want to have a stop where you can get off at Mercer Village. They want to have a stop. There was another stop. I can't think of where it was, but there were 3 stops planned already for people. But Mercer, to get from Mercer Village to downtown, I mean, that makes total sense if you don't have a car.
Yeah, that'd be great for a college student.
Anyways, we'll see what happens, but check it out online. What was that? JPods? Yeah, JPods. If you're curious what it looks like, because it's pretty fascinating, and it's I don't know.
I wonder if they'll be bulletproof.
Oh man, wear your Kevlar.
3 upsides to high inflation. Rising prices are undoubtedly a problem, and like Sherri said, inflation's now at 7.5%, the highest level since 1982. Painful price hikes are hitting everyday bills such as food, home heating, rent, and gasoline. Inflation should stay high for most of 2022, but they're hoping towards the end it might settle down a little bit, but we'll see. High inflation isn't bad for everybody. Here's 3 benefits. We're going to go through a couple of them. Homeowners. So people that own their home right now, they're seeing raises in the value up to 20% per year. So it's really hard for buyers that are looking for a house, but for the people that are actually wanting to sell their house, it's great. The government measure of housing inflation is smaller at 5.7%, but most people aren't going to buy a home every year. So even if your house only went up 5.7% every year, that would still be a good increase. So the good news is it helps people's overall wealth. It says more than 1/3 of the 79 million U.S. homeowners own their property outright without a mortgage. So those people, can you believe that? 1 in 3, 1/3 of Americans actually own their home outright. That's kind of surprising. Most homeowners have a fixed rate loan, and many have refinanced in the last couple of years to have a really good rate. But it says that since the pandemic, the value of real estate has grown by 20%. The value of household real estate. So it's definitely on the rise, and one good effect of inflation is that your house is worth more. And then people who benefit from rising interest rates. Interest rates usually rise amid inflation. It's already happening, but long-term rates, such as mortgages, they are going up. So it's not necessarily the person that's buying the house, but the banks. All these banks that are loaning the money out are able to raise the rates now, and so higher rates will slow down the debt-fueled spending, but if they get high enough, they'll produce a bit more income for fixed income savers who's been getting returns close to 0%. Rising rates could make the U.S. dollar stronger against other currencies, discounting the cost of travel for Americans heading abroad, and it's possible for borrowers who are unable to get a loan with rates that were really low, they might find banks more willing to lend to them as the rates go up.
The other thing is that a weaker dollar, which is what happens when you have raising interest rates, a weaker dollar makes U.S. products cheaper abroad, which can boost exports a lot. That's a really big deal. Nobody's talking about that. Let's answer your question that you got on your phone last night. You want to? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two different questions, and the first one was from somebody that listens that said, I have 10 $20 gold coins. They're rated MS65, and I don't know much about gold coins, but I'm not needing to cash anytime soon. Any suggestions as to when to sell them?
Well, if you go to Yahoo Finance, you can scroll across the top, and it will give you the price of gold and silver, and you can watch it. And the last time I looked at it, because a client was asking me about it, it was pretty close to a peak, especially when you have volatility like we have right now. And so you can look at the high, you can look at the past. When we had the recession back in 2008, 2009, it peaked then too because of all the uncertainty and volatility in the markets. And so the other thing that you should know is if you take it to a coin shop and you sell them outright to a coin shop, you don't owe any taxes on it because it's not reported, which I find interesting. But I don't know. I would just hang on. If you don't need the money, I would just hang on to it because we're going to go through peaks and valleys, and if you sell it now, then it goes up more because if some other crazy thing happens, then you regret selling it. And so if you don't need it, I'd forget about it.
Yeah, I would just hold on to it too as well, because you just never know what's going to happen down the road. And you can look at the theory of, the gold is really high right now, so you might as well make money because it could go back down. But I'm always the one that wants to just hold on because it could go even higher. So
yeah, we've got silver coins in our safe, and I'm never going to sell them. They'll go to the kids someday. I mean, I don't need it, but I found that interesting about the coin seller. And the coin sales have been huge through this pandemic. I mean, people have been buying them up to the point where coin places were out of coins.
It's just crazy.
I've never seen anything like it. Anyways, what's the next question?
All right, the other one. With the recent volatility of the markets, what strategies do you employ to protect your clients' portfolios?
So we invest our clients in the Retire Relax program. I'll talk about that because that's the primary thing we do. We invest our clients using individual stocks and typically bond funds and cash and some ETFs. Well, this has really been a rough year this last year because of the volatility has been all over the place. And the last month in particular, where the narrative has been, the interest rates are going up, get out of growth stocks, get into value stocks. All the talking heads were saying this. And then the next day it's, get out of tech stocks, get into value stocks. Well, if you think about everything you do all day long and how much technology you use, you could probably guess that that's really not good advice because technology has been where the growth has been over the last year in the stock market. But what we do is we watch every holding every day, and we have an Excel spreadsheet with the actual holding and when we paid, what we paid for it, when we bought it, and then when it goes up in value. If it drops for some reason 15% from the high, we take a hard look at whether we should sell it or not. And there are times, and we subscribe to a lot of software to help us with this decision that values the stock, values the trends. I mean, all of this stuff, we're looking at this stuff all day long. But it's been unnerving, and I mentioned it last week. It's unnerving when people out there just talking heads are saying to get out of technology and driving the entire sector down because of a thing called an exchange-traded fund. So if you're in a technology ETF and you hear that news and you go hit the sell button, you just drove down the price of everything in that basket. And everyone was doing that 2 weeks ago. That's been the narrative now for 3 or 4 weeks. And so it's been hard to value something and then like I mentioned a week or two ago, I can't remember, the week that like Apple had blowout earnings, biggest earnings report ever in the history, and they're still down because the entire market is down. So there's just a lot of volatility, and we're watching it every day, and it kind of drives us insane sometimes, but it's what we do, and we just have to follow the stop loss rules that we have and the software that we've prescribed to. It's the best we can do, but we've had some sales that, looking back, if we were psychic, we'd be really, really good at this. But we're not psychics. We have to depend on numbers. So, but that's pretty much what we do.
Awesome. All right.
Our biggest thing is most of our clients are retired and they cannot afford to lose money. Many of them are taking distributions out that need to last for the rest of their lives. So we cannot have large losses in these portfolios. And that's why we're structured the way we are. And I hope that was compliant.
I think it was mostly. I think so.
I don't know. We'll find out.
We don't get in trouble too often, but every once in a while we say something that's just not quite compliant.
Right.
The new post-60 career path. So
I love this article.
Yes, so great. The people in their 60s and 70s and beyond still wanting stimulating jobs, researchers and workplace experts are figuring out what late-in-life careers could look like. So, as people are getting older, their priorities shift. They want less stress. They want more time to process, create, and mentor. Says, I couldn't see another decade in the pressure cooker management job I'd had for years. I wanted to focus on what I loved most about the profession. And this person that wrote the article was talking about reporting, writing, and making an impact. Most people over 60 plan to continue working in the future. The share of workers 65 and over in the U.S. is expected to increase faster than any other age group between now and 2030, but no clear roadmap exists for how to do it, which I think that would probably be a lot of the baby boomers maybe that retired and now they're sitting at home and either they need the money or they're just really bored. And
they don't have anything to do, and they're used to working. It's so stupid to just go from 0 to 60, you just quit your job. And so I have one client, she picked up a gig with a local attorney. She came out of healthcare, but she helps do the auditing of potential claims against healthcare entities. So she's using her healthcare expertise to help a lawyer. And she said it's fascinating. She has to read the charts and do her reports and determine which cases they should push forward on and which cases they shouldn't. And she loves it. It's stimulating. She's using her brain. It's like 2 or 3 days a week, and she makes great money doing it. And so she doesn't have to take her Social Security. She's not having to take distributions. She's living on that cash flow. And that's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, I worked at a law firm for several years, and we had a couple nurse paralegals, and they had been nursing, their whole life, and then they were a little bit, one of them especially, had kind of retired from the hands-on nursing, and she came to the law firm, and like you said, they would have stacks and stacks of all these medical charts from these clients, and they would go through it, and they would be able to do a summary for the lawyer who, isn't going to understand everything that's in those charts.
That's right.
So, if you're a nurse and you're retired, go find a law firm to work for.
Right. So as lifespans now extend toward 100, demographers, gerontologists, neuroscientists, and employment experts are studying how to overhaul the workplace for the future to encourage people to work into the later stages of life. Workers 65 and over will account for more than 60% of projected labor force growth from 2020. How is that going to be labor force growth when people don't even know where these jobs are? And I looked up something this morning. I've got a client whose husband passed last year. She's possibly getting laid off next week. I've got to call her. And she's been applying everywhere, and everybody tells her she's overqualified. But nobody will tell her, hey, you're overqualified for what you applied for. How would you like to do this? Nobody's doing that for her. So she is just stressed out of her mind because her skill set is completely transitional. It could be used anywhere. And so I don't understand why.
And you wonder if it's a money thing, if they're afraid because of her skill level that she's going to require too much money and more than they want to pay, where they can bring in somebody
They won't even
else.
talk to her.
That's
it doesn't
crazy.
make any sense. And she just gets an email back, if she even gets that. So the way we've set up employment is on Friday you're at 100%, and on Monday after you retire you're at 0%. That's not good for the person, and it's not good for the company. Why not create a staircase that allows people to ramp down over time? And I just love that idea.
I do too. We need to there needs to be somebody out
transition.
there. We don't have enough time, but somebody else could create a whole job force around these transition jobs. And
so I looked it up this morning because I was looking at this article, and I looked at employment coaches in Middle Georgia, and there's a whole list of them, but I can't tell if they're just pitching jobs at people or if they're doing counseling, and some are free. Some are specific only to certain entities. If anybody out there knows of an entity who does employment counseling, I have people I could send to them. If it was reasonably priced and they would actually help them, it would be a huge service, like my client that's looking for a job, because she doesn't know where to look because she doesn't know where she fits. She doesn't know what the options are. So if anybody has that, support at rfmoney.com. I'd love to hear from you.
And some people in that position, are creative enough to say, hey, this is what I want to do, and to come up with, their resume geared towards that, and go to companies to say, hey, let's create this position. But most people don't have that much, ideas of what is out there, what that could be.
So purpose is crucial for older workers. Older workers want flexibility in both the number of hours worked and the choice of tasks they perform. Some 60% of non-working Americans in their late 60s and 70s said they'd be willing to return to work if they had flexible schedules, and about a fifth of those would like to take willing to take more than a 20% cut in hourly wages to do so. Plus, these guys don't need health insurance. They're on Medicare, so they're ideal to bring on board.
It was talking about different, you'd have different types of benefits for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sherri said, most of the time if they're over 65, they're going to have Medicare. It said one of the things they were going to offer was maybe grocery delivery, long-term care insurance.
Would that be amazing?
So the benefits are completely different for these people. But it's just a matter of really taking advantage of all these people, that are from 60 to 80 that still want to work, that have all of this knowledge. There's just so many wonderful ways that their skill set could be used.
And I thought this was interesting. Workers' rights are still governed by the Fair Labor Standards Act, established in 1938 and set up for traditional full-time work. New laws and organizations will be needed to provide benefits for future contract workers, perhaps by project or role. And then this last thing I thought was really good. Despite years of discussion about accommodating an aging workforce, the topic is still taboo for many. People don't want to self-identify as older. Hey, I'm 61. I'm there. They don't want to be stigmatized as slowing down. A 2020 ARP survey of 5,598 employers in 36 countries found 53% of global executives don't include age in their diversity and inclusion policies.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm going to file a lawsuit.
I mean, everybody gets older. If you're blessed if you get to get older, and I mean, people know how old you are, and that's just going to speak to the experiences that you've had and the skill set you have.
Right. I thought, you want to read this last part? I thought this was amazing.
The evidence continues to grow that working longer is better for mental, physical, and financial health. Postponing retirement until at least age 67 resulted in a 1/3 reduction in cognitive decline compared with those who retired at ages 61 to 67, with positive effects lasting until age 74. So I thought that was great. So keep working, and it's going to help you stay sharper, and it's supposed to help you live longer and help your brain. Well, we had another article about 10 minutes of exercise. So if you're still working, it's going to help you with your overall health. We shouldn't have to feel embarrassed for making a conscious choice to take a path that may be less traditional, but may actually, in the long run, allow us to stay in the workplace longer.
So I like this other thing on the top. And this guy's written a book, The Super Age. Demographer Bradley Sherman says emerging technology for physical labor will help the aging population extend working lives. A powered exoskeleton muscle suit for the lower back developed by a Japanese company is designed to help older workers in fields like farming, nursing, and manufacturing to lift heavy objects. The nursing field is horribly, because of the obesity rate in this country and nurses having to turn patients, the disability rate is through the ceiling of nurses. And this would fix that. If they had this to go turn patients, same like a nursing home. I mean, the whole thing needs to be fixed. But I just love this article. So if anybody has any ideas, or you know somebody that is a career counselor that would help people that are at 60 and over, I need to know about them, because I will send people to them.
Yep. Email us, support@rfmoney.com. All right, so we're about halfway through the show right now. You've been listening to Becca and Sherri with Rosenberg Financial Group. Call in today. We haven't had any calls yet. 742-0940. 478-742-0940. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and the main things we do as financial advisors is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you can't listen live, you can always visit our website, retirerelax.com, and listen to our recordings and check out our special reports. We offer complimentary consultations, so we want you to come in and talk with us, and we will help you work on a roadmap for your retirement. We also do educational seminars. We'll come out to your small group, your church group, your employer, and speak on estate planning, retirement planning, Social Securities, the different benefits with that. So give us a call if you're interested in having us come speak at your group. Our office number is 478-922-8100, and also call that number to set up a complimentary consultation with us.
Yay. I got to get out and speak last week, and it was fun. Just 30 minutes. We can talk. Give us as much time as you want, because we can talk.
We are not at a loss for words. So we had talked about the 60-plus workforce. Well, what about Gen Z? So these are, the Gen Z is the youngest generation in the workforce right now, and they're rewriting the rules.
25 and under.
So, this is my kids. They're all considered Gen Z, and all these are the kids that are about to graduate from college or have been in trade schools. And so it's really interesting because they're kind of requiring and asking different things. While older generations highly value compensation and benefits, Gen Zers are prioritizing organizational values and flexibility. Though pay and related factors are still important, they're only one part of the package. So according to a study on Gen Z, 63% of Gen Zers feel it's extremely important to work for an employer that shares their values.
Good luck with that.
In fact, nearly 70% of professionals in this group are likely to switch industries to find jobs that better align with their values, compared to 59% of millennials, 45% of Gen Xers, and 40% of the baby boomers. So
because we were taught not to do that.
Yeah, no,
but our daughter switched contracting jobs 3 times in 1 year, and nobody cared because they wanted her skill set. They were willing to pay for it. So she bumped 3 quit 2 jobs and got the 3rd job in 1 year, and nobody cared.
And here we are. We're like, we got a job, and we need to stick with it. And
right.
I know our values aren't there, but, hey, we just got to do it for the paycheck.
It's a different world.
It sure is. Gen Zers are motivated to make career changes if they lead to a better job stability, more flexible work hours, more opportunities to move up or increase responsibility, and better compensation and benefits. They did some quotes from people as they interviewed them for this article, that a really important value is for the Gen Zs is flexibility, providing space to build thought leadership and a personal brand, and supporting that development. It's just amazing how things have changed, because, 20 years ago, no one would have even thought to ask for these kind of things. The opportunity to work on interdisciplinary projects that make a meaningful difference to the world, a supportive community at the workplace that pushes me to challenge myself and pick up new skills, and good and timely compensation. So it would be interesting to see if these Gen Zers are really, they care about what they're working on and not just about the paycheck, and maybe this shift is a little bit different from the millennials.
Yeah. So. Too many video games, I think.
But if they can make that a career, it'll be okay.
Right. True. All right, the next one, 7 crucial retirement mistakes that you don't want to make.
All right. According to a study, Northwestern Mutual found in 2020 that 71% of adults admit their financial planning needs improvement. So that's where you call us, because only 29% of Americans actually work with a financial advisor.
And I understand this. And I had a couple in last week. I can't remember how they found me, but they wanted me to look at all their pension choices they were making, Social Security, their income, their assets, their debt, all of this stuff. And we worked through the whole thing. And we get to the end of it, and I said, you guys are in great shape. You're done. You're good. And they're like, what do we owe you? And I said, nothing. And they're like, what? And I noticed that the guy had been kind of sitting sideways. Like I always tell when people are really kind of on edge because they think I'm going to try to pitch something at them. So they kind of sit sideways with their arm to me and their head kind of halfway turned. Like, yeah, I'm listening, but...
kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
Judge you.
I could tell the whole time. And once I said that, he totally turned around and faced me and opened up and was like, holy cow, this was amazing. And so that's something that we offer. But people are scared that they're going to go see a financial advisor who acts like a used car salesman. And there are still people out there like that, and I don't understand why the industry has not completely shifted to become more like us and just help and do good for people, because it comes back to you 100 times. You chase people out in the parking lot, they're going to tell everybody, don't go see that person. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I had someone this week call and ask about me coming out and doing some talking to a couple of their groups that they're involved in, and they're like, but, we don't want any hard sales. And I'm like, trust me, we don't. I mean, like, we'll mention that you can come and see us for complimentary consultations, but we aren't going to try and sell you any products. We're not going to try and, I need everybody to line up over here so we can buy this product because it's great today. You can't leave until you sign up.
But they've been to enough things like that. I had a client call me, this is years ago. She said, I'm going to this seminar that this attorney's putting on, and I would like you to come and hear what she's saying so that we can talk afterward and you can tell me whether you think I should use her or not. And I go there, and I'm the young, because it was all about estate planning. And so I sat in the back of the room, and this is like 10 years ago. So people were kind of looking at me like, why was I there? Because I was young. And it was mostly older couples. And so I'm sitting there, and the attorney just said, hello, I'm so-and-so, blah, 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 thanks so much for coming. And then she turned it over to this guy and didn't even say what his name was or what his credentials were. And he, for the next hour, he put the fear of God into all of those people and told them if they didn't have XYZ done, that they were going to destroy their family. I mean, it was a pitch. It was the hardest pitch I've ever seen an attorney do. And the people were so scared at the end of it that they stood in line and signed up to go to have an appointment because they had their appointment setter sitting there. One lady even wrote a check for $5,000 to open a trust account like immediately because she was so terrified. Well, she knew that knew who I was, and about 2 weeks later, maybe a month, she called me at the office, and she said, Sherri, you were at that seminar. And I said, yes. And she said, well, I was so terrified by what they told me that I wrote a check for $5,000, and they won't call me back, and they still have my check.
Wow.
I said, you call the Bar Association like now. You will get your check back. So people go through stuff like that, and they assume everyone is going to be like that, and it's not. You just have to really, just be cognizant of whatever you're listening to and hearing, and just make sure that what you're hearing is correct and good advice and all of that kind of stuff, because we're not going to do anything like that, because we're held to a fiduciary standard. We couldn't if we wanted to. So we're a safe place.
The value of working with a financial advisor varies by person, and advisors are legally prohibited from promising returns. But research suggests that people who work with a financial advisor feel more at ease about their finances and could end up with about 15% more money to spend in retirement. So this is based on this article. A recent Vanguard study found that on average, a $500,000 investment would grow to over $3.4 million under the care of an advisor over 25 years, whereas the expected value from self-management would be $1.69 million or 50% less. So,
and I get that. I see that because I see people that are terrified, so they've been in cash for years. Yeah.
I had a new client this week, and she opened up a Roth account and another account with us, and then she had me look over her statements for her current employer's program. And she's only in her mid-40s, so she's got at least, 15, 20 years left. And she had the biggest chunk of one of her accounts in the 2020 lifestyle fund or whatever it was. And I'm like, she had a little bit in 2040, but most of it was in 2020. And I said, this is already pretty conservative for someone in your situation, but I said, as time goes by, it's only going to keep changing and get more conservative. And so she hadn't realized it. So we can help you look at some of these things, and just by having someone kind of tweak where you're at with it can make a huge difference in the long
and the
run.
problem is these advisors for these companies, for these plans, don't visit the companies anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't get any advice. They don't get any help. They don't get asked, any of this kind of stuff. So good.
So we've got 7 crucial retirement mistakes. The number one, and we see this a lot, is taking Social Security too early. So, of course, if you want to maximize your benefits, the very best is to put it off until 70 because that's when you're going to get the largest amount. But at least try and work to your full retirement age and get your full Social Security benefit. There's so many different strategies with it as far as when you take it, and if you have a spouse that's going to depend on it, when they take it.
Or if you're a widow.
A widow. So you want to ask somebody and find out for sure before you make those decisions.
Well, at least go to our website, retirerelax.com, and download the special report about maximizing your Social Security.
Yeah, it's got a lot of interesting facts things you may not have thought of before. Borrowing against your retirement, unless it's emergency, please don't take 401k loans out. It should be the very last option because you don't want to miss out on the opportunity cost of having that money invested while you're paying it back. And I know you pay back your interest, and usually it's like 2 or 3% or something. You're paying yourself back, so it's something.
But a lot of people, if they're paying themselves back, what I've seen is they can't contribute. They can't afford to contribute.
Oh.
So they take the loan out, and they're just paying the loan back. So they're basically sitting on zero. All that money, the time cost of money is gone.
That's true. Tapping into your 401k or IRAs before RMDs. So we'll go through all that with you when you have an IRA, that when you turn 59 and a half, you can start taking withdrawals from your retirement accounts and you won't pay a penalty. If you take anything out before you're 59 and a half, you will pay a 10% penalty. There are a few exceptions to that. But just because you've turned 59 and a half doesn't mean that you need to take money out. So the laws don't require you to take a distribution from any of your retirement accounts until you're 72. So leave that in there as long as you can so it has time to grow. And just because you can take it out doesn't mean that you should. And we always, at least I know, we usually suggest taking your Roth money last. So this is the money that has been done after taxes. You've already paid taxes on it, and then you contribute to the Roth IRA account. And all that growth in there will be tax-free if you leave it in there long enough. And you don't actually have to take your RMDs on a Roth account. So that account can keep growing as long as you want, and you can just have it to keep growing. We also talk about this all the time. Hiring a mistake is hiring an advisor who's not a fiduciary. So definitely check out where you're going and who you're talking with, because if you go to somebody that specializes in life insurance or somebody that specializes in annuities or whatever, chances are you're going to end up needing that exact product. That's going to be the one that just fits you perfect. But it's just because that's what they're selling. So you want to make sure that you go to somebody that is looking out for your best interest and going to look at products or services or whatever it might be that are best for you.
Really, really important.
Yes,
life-changing.
All right, what have we got next?
So this is very interesting. The people have gotten into a habit of buying in bulk. And I kept wondering, why do I go to the store and my favorite salsa is gone all the time? The whole shelf is bare. It's like, how many people like the same thing that I like? Obviously, a lot of people.
You have good taste.
So when they have it in stock, I buy 2. I don't buy 4, but I do buy 2. So this lady recently walked out of a BJ's Wholesale Club in New York with 24 boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese, a box of 50 frozen mozzarella sticks, a 40-pound bag of basmati rice, and a 12-can pack of garbanzo beans. What is she cooking? That combination doesn't sound very good. She said, I don't want to be in a position again where I can't get something. She's 41 years old and a mother of 5. She estimates her family now spends about 25% more a week on food and staples than before the pandemic, and she's buying more than twice as much of some staples and household supplies. Retailers and analysts predicted that the bulk buying in the early days of the pandemic, when supplies of many goods were constrained, would subside once people returned to work, stores were able to restock, and vaccinations became widespread. Instead, Americans continue to stockpile food and household goods. Many are spending more time at home and remain uncertain about product availability. And inflation is spurring a search for savings by buying in bulk. After more than 20 years of steady but slow growth, sales at bulk retailers Costco, Sam's, and BJ's rose 26.6% in dollars and 18% in volume during the fourth quarter of last year.
That is crazy, isn't it? It's amazing.
I go to Sam's. I got to tell you, and I looked it up. So Sam's Club membership costs $45, but they're running a deal right now that I saw online that you get $45 worth of food. And so it really isn't costing you anything. Now, the next year when they renew, you're not getting anything for free, but I save enough money there, and it's just Randy and me. And we just have to, if you don't want to eat the same thing every day, you just got to put it in the freezer. But I find things half price there. Let me see here. Even if somebody waves a magic wand and makes COVID go away completely, we still expect elevated consumption in the home because people are accustomed to working from home, and hybrid work is here to stay. This guy, psychologically, the cost of I don't get this one. Psychologically, the cost of underconsumption appears higher than overconsumption. We are more upset about not getting our cereal box than having an extra box left over and having to throw it away.
But think about your salsa, how upset you get when there's no salsa on the shelf. And what if you did buy 3 or 4 because you were so worried about that and you want to make sure you had it, but then you didn't get to it before it expired or something? That would upset you more that you didn't get it initially than you had to actually throw one away.
Okay. The majority of new members at Sam's, where memberships hit a record in the third quarter of 2021, have been young millennial families. The new clientele has prompted Sam's to shake up its product mix, expand its mobile app technology, and roll out curbside pickup for online orders.
I thought it was really interesting that they were talking about in focus groups, customers said they want higher quality foods, including healthier ingredients and clearer labeling. I just don't think about Sam's people as caring that much about that kind of thing because they're buying in bulk. But it said in response, Sam's removed 475 items from its product mix in July of 2020, and it reformulated nearly 600 products and launched 650 new items. So when the customers complained, for example, about their private label beer battered cod that wasn't crispy enough, Sam's worked with its fish supplier to change the recipe and packaging and relaunch the product.
Isn't that something?
I know. It said they've canceled orders for product categories that members said they didn't need at the beginning of the pandemic, including jewelry, televisions, and apparel, and they focused on what customers wanted: the frozen pizza, ice cream, canned goods, paper towels, and cleaning products.
This one I thought was really interesting. So ConAgra, which makes frozen meals under its Bird's Eye, P.F. Chang's, and Marie Callender's brands, has seen demand skyrocket for many of its frozen dinners. It increased production of Marie Callender's pot pies by 25% to 200 million units in October of the year of the pandemic started. It added a new production line at its factory in Russellville, Arkansas, hiring 50 more people.
That's a lot of pot pies.
And then Kraft Heinz is installing a new production line for its macaroni and cheese cups that will result in a significant increase in capacity by the end of the first quarter this year. Unit sales of its 18-box package available at club stores grew 40% in 2021 over 2020, and their single boxes in the store actually declined because people don't want just a single box. They want a big pile.
Right, and if you buy 18 at Sam's, you don't need to go buy one-offs at the grocery store.
And then the last one, sales of chest freezers in the U.S. more than doubled. In spring of 2020, executives at LG Electronics, the North American subsidiary of Korean appliance giant, were mystified by the unexpected spike in demand for its 20 cubic foot top freezer refrigerator model, which are normally purchased for apartments. Customer survey data showed people are buying the units as second refrigerators, often putting them in a garage or a basement. By summer, they had sold out all the units and needed to rev up production. They decided to permanently increase capacity, hiring more than 500 new workers for their Mexican plant and adding a new production line. Consumers have changed their behavior in their home. And this last one I thought is fascinating. Benetton Bakery was thrilled when Sam's Club asked them to step up production of breakfast day dishes in the spring of 2020. So they shifted their output that was normally for restaurants, casinos, and cruise ships, which had evaporated, into products for retail but still needed to scale up. They tripled their workforce so that 3 shifts could work around the clock. They boosted salaries to $17 an hour from $10 and to compete for labor. But I didn't really understand that all of that was going on. Now, when we bought our cow right before COVID, we had a hard time finding a freezer to put the cow in, and it was 8.2 cubic feet of beef. And we got the last freezer at Lowe's. I mean, Sam's. We went to Sam's. I go online. It showed they had 5. We'd show up with the truck, and they were gone. And the guy told us as soon as the freezers hit the shelf, they're gone.
Well, I think it's just crazy because then the poor people that you think about all the people that moved and bought new houses. So these people need new refrigerators and freezers.
Right.
And then I had several friends that their fridges just happened to go out during the pandemic. And it was horrible because all these people are buying these extra ones, and the people that actually really needed just like the main one, they were having trouble finding one. But it said chest freezers in the U.S. more than doubled to 1.7 million units from 2019. That's just crazy. Now, you wonder, I guess, it did say that our trends have changed and that people are eating at home more than they did before the pandemic. So I guess all that stuff they're buying from Sam's, hopefully they're eating.
Right. So do you consistently overspend? You can use gratitude as a tool to rethink where your money goes.
I really like this article. Is I sometimes probably buy things I don't need to buy. And so
it gets easier as you get older because you don't care anymore.
That's true. You don't have anybody, you're not impressing people.
Yeah, and your kids are grown, and so you're not doing anything for them, and your spending just goes to like hardly nothing. I mean, it's just really weird. But I wear the same thing all the time, and it doesn't matter. I used to want something new, and because of trends or whatever, I don't care about trends. I'm 61. It's like this is what I am, and here I am, and whatever. It's actually really nice because it takes the pressure off that you used to be under when you had kids and your kids were going to school and you had to make sure they looked good and their hair was done right and so they wouldn't get picked on and that kind of stuff. And it just is very simpler to be a grandma.
It says money is being recognized more and more as a highly emotional experience. Most of the time, we're thrilled with something that we buy when we first get it, but then the excitement wears off a few days later. So there's nothing wrong with buying something that you see and want. However, it's important to keep in mind that this habit can be detrimental when you start overspending. And you definitely want to watch out if you have any problems where you're not contributing as much to your retirement account or you're not saving for some of those big goals. If you're trying to save for a house or get out of debt, you want to make sure that those things are prioritized.
See, I think the problem here is social media. I think it's a massive problem where everybody has to show, here's what I did, here's where I'm going, here's what I'm wearing. And there's this competition to be better, whatever, especially amongst young people that are really sucked into TikTok and all of that. I think it's extremely negative, and it's all about now. It's all about me, and it's all about now. So,
well, in the me part, there's all these ads that pop up. So like on Instagram or whatever, or Facebook, as you're scrolling through your feed, there's all these ads for longer eyelashes and
oh gosh, I'm so sick of that
apple
trend.
Cider vinegar that's going to solve all your problems in the world, and all these things pop up, and so you're like, oh, and you just click on something, and then you get sucked into it. Like, well, maybe my eyelashes do need to be longer, or maybe these what are those? There's this pants, all these yoga pants that were really supposed to contour you and make you look good, and like all these girls were buying these one particular pants because
they're probably $100 a pair.
Probably.
I'll go to Walmart.
It says, oftentimes people, when they buy something, they approach it with a scarcity mentality, and we say to ourselves, I don't have this thing, and I want it, so I must acquire it. And like Sherri said, we have a tendency to compare ourselves to one another, and so it makes us kind of latch onto this instinct that we think we need to have it because it might be gone. Today's technology, like we talked about, makes it even easier to exploit these emotions that you have and these needs. You see your friend gets a new car on Facebook or whatever, and then you think, well, maybe I need a new car.
Nobody cares what you drive. Let me just tell you right now, it was so funny when Randy was in the military, these young troops would get promoted, and the next thing you know, they're driving a BMW that they financed for 8 years. And it's horrible to your finances to do that. I mean, don't live up to other people's expectations. Do a good job. Stick with your good values. And do what you need to do and save. But trying to impress other people isn't going to get you anywhere. It doesn't work in any capacity. I tried it.
Well, and the car thing, how many people, you can finance cars now for, like you said, 7, 8 years.
Which is ridiculous.
How many people really keep their car that long? So these people that go and buy, like, say, a BMW, and they finance it for 8 years, well, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's decreased in value. And then in, like, 2 or 3 years, they're probably bored with it. So then they go to trade it in, and they probably owe
money.
Way more than they
have to finance it again.
So then they're buying something else, and they have to add an extra $5,000 or $10,000 to that vehicle because the other one was upside down. And it's just like a bad situation,
it's horrible.
A bad circle
it's terrible.
To get into.
I really thought by now people would wake up to that and stop doing it, but I think it's still a thing because it's a status symbol to be seen in this car, but it just doesn't really work.
I wonder how that is now with, having such a hard time finding new cars. I wonder if it's even more of a status thing, like I actually found a new car, because
I don't know.
If people are, excited to be the ones that actually got something new. I like this, though. It said, use gratitude to overcome emotional spending. So there's lots of ways to prevent yourself from making purchases aimlessly. And some popular methods include waiting 24 hours or even sometimes a few days before buying the item if you really, really want it. So sometimes if you just think you have to have it and you're at the store and you just throw it in the cart, or you're online at Amazon and you just click on it, you buy it, and then even later that day you might even think, well, did I really need that? But wait at least a day or 2 days. Maybe have a price limit where you discuss it, or you have an accountability person that you could say, hey, if it's over $100, I need to talk to somebody. And
that's what Randy and I did. When we got married, we had a deal where if we were going to spend more than, I can't remember, $50, this is a long time ago, we had to talk to each other before we did it. And we did that for years, and it really saved us a lot of grief, because there were times when I wanted something, I can't remember back then what it even would be, but talking through it made a lot of sense, and it helped us both become on the same page completely financially. And so setting goals, the other thing that helped us out, every year we would go on a date. Between Christmas and New Year's, we'd go out to dinner, and we would each bring a list of our goals for the year, and then we would swap them out and read each other's goals, and then we would make a list of what we both want to really work on that year. And then the January, we would track our spending for 30 days. And if you go to our website, retirerelax.com, there's a special report, Can I Afford to Retire? And there's a spending tracker in it. And you can spend, and you have to put the tracker on the table, and as you come in the door at night, you just physically write down what you spent that day. And you start becoming more aware because of this activity. You get more aware of what you're actually spending, and you realize, and your brain will actually start working for you. And you'll be at the grocery store, and you'll reach for something that you don't need, and your brain will say, what are you doing? So I highly recommend all of this, journaling, tracking, talking to your spouse, have family meetings. We always had family meetings on Sunday nights, and did meal planning and planned the whole week of what we were going to do, and it kept us all on the same page, and so it helps you avoid conflict.
Well, just like you said, if you are married and you talk about it with your spouse, then sometimes they're going to talk you out of it. Like, okay, you really didn't need another pair of shoes. Let's look in your closet. How many shoes do you have? But then if you do decide that, okay, I do need a new headset because I run or whatever, and you need your old one is all wacky, then together you make that decision. So then you aren't sneaking stuff home, and you can enjoy it together because your spouse could be happy that you guys worked through it and decided that it was something that you needed. And I see situations where people kind of, sneak things in their houses, and they don't want their spouses to know things they buy or whatever.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for me.
And it's just amazing. Just stay on the same page and talk about it. Make things much easier.
Yay. So, yeah, automatic deposit into a checking account, savings account. Just get yourself financially organized. And if you have kids, sit them down. Next time you guys are together, just sit them down and ask them some questions about their spending and what they're doing. And are they contributing to their retirement plan? Where is their money going, and what are their plans for the future? What are their goals? Because it might stimulate them to actually have goals that they don't have right now. Because we tend to not talk about money because we don't want to be in other people's business. But I've always been in my kids' business when it comes to finances, and because of that, they come to me and ask me questions now. So, some kids aren't going to want to hear it, but others will benefit from it.
So, and just talks about practicing gratitude. It's one of the many strategies for overcoming the urge to spend frivolously. Gratitude practices are not one size fits all. It may take some time to find the practice that works best for you. But like Sherri said, journaling, just realizing what all that you have, and do you really need all this extra
Do you need
crap?
more?
Do you need more?
Drive your car for at least 12 years.
All right. Well, we are almost at the end of the show. You've been listening to Becca and Sherri with Rosenberg Financial Group. We have our offices in Macon and in Warner Robins. And the main things we do as financial advisors is provide retirement planning advice, and we manage our clients' investment accounts. If you can't listen live, you can always listen to our website, retirerelax.com. You can go back and find past recordings of our radio show. You can check out all our special reports. We just revamped them, and they look so great. And like Sherri said, there's the Can I Afford to Retire, the Social Security. There's so many helpful ones in there about whatever situation you're in right now. We also offer complimentary consultations to help you plan for your successful retirement, and we provide educational seminars in the community. So give us a call if you're interested in having us speak at your meeting, or you want to set up a consultation with one of us. Our office number is 478-922-8100, and our website is retirerelax.com.
Awesome.
All right. So we have a wonderful weekend, and we thank you for listening to it.
It's going to be beautiful out today.
Yes.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. No strategy can assure a profit against loss. Rosenberg Financial Group is located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, Georgia 31088, and can be reached at 478-922-8100.